Welcome to Sales Logic. Meredith, take it away.
Yeah, I know. Welcome to Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to well sell logically. This week, I'm coming to you from Dublin, Ireland. And Mark, where are you?
I'm coming to you from Philadelphia, the Marriott Hotel in the Philadelphia airport. How's that sound?
Well,
Not
I
quite
just
as good
got
as
off.
Dublin.
Yeah, I just got off the. I'm actually a little south of Dublin, down around Shannon. I just got off at the Hogshead golf course today and headed to dinner tonight with some clients. But before I do that, I certainly want to talk and spend some time really focusing on sales logic. Now, every week, Mark and I come to you at 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning because we are passionate about sales. And this week, we've got great topics for you. What is on tap this week, Mark?
Well, we're going to be talking about, is it always necessary to take a price decrease, price cut to close a sale? Because that's a topic that a lot of people are having to deal with, even in this inflationary period that we're in. So that's the topic. We got a great question, great book, and a lightning round all around price. It's going to
All
be a good
right.
show.
Now, Mark, you are handling the live stream today, so
Yep.
I'm not sure if we've got the video or not. If we do,
Yes, we sure
go
do.
for it.
Are you ready? Here we go.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
This is Sales Logic. Now, remember, we invite you every week to be a part of Sales Logic. If you have a question, just like our listener today, go to saleslogicpodcast.com. Put your question in there, or you can always email Mark or me directly, and we will have you live on the air answering your questions. I also want to put in a plug. Join us at our really powerful Sales Logic Mastermind. Listen, if you want to be better at sales, if you want to take it over the top, if you want to exceed your goals, this is the mastermind for you. We'll put the link in the show notes so you can join. So, Mark, tell us about the show today.
Well, the show that we're going to be talking about is, how do I get around having to cut my price to close a sale? The question comes from Robert in Charlotte. He says, I sell in a very competitive space. My competitors all offer steep discounts, and it's hard for me to compete. What do you suggest I do?
Yeah, well, that is difficult because what has happened is your competitors have trained your customer and you need to retrain the customer. That is where you need to start. Now, you will hear Mark and I both say over and over again, people only buy on price when price is the reason it's the only option they feel they have. People actually default to price. And I personally think that it's a myth that people are not willing to pay more, but they need to understand. But you're in a unique situation. And I want to spend some time talking about the fact that your customer is trained to default to price. So you're going to need to really back up and help them understand why choosing you and paying more is a good opportunity for them.
Well, you hit on something so good, because it comes down to the level of trust. And if you think about it, in the absence of trust, price becomes everything. Okay, that's key. But you also said something cool, that your customers, Robert, your customers have truly trained the marketplace. You're right. There are certain industries out there that it seems like it's department store pricing every day. It's always department store price. What does that mean? It's 70, 80% off. In the tech space, that happens all the time. So what does this mean that's happening? Well, first of all, was there a false narrative around what the price was to begin with? You see, to a certain degree, how do I get around cutting my price? Maybe I went out with a false price to begin with, but let's back the bus up even further. And it's in the absence of trust, because here's the whole thing. If all you are selling is TCO, total cost of ownership, is going to be price oriented. I'm going to say take that O and change it to total cost of outcome. In other words, what's the outcome you're creating? And if the outcome of what you're creating, it may be more expensive, but because of buying from me, buying from my company, you can have fewer FTEs, fewer full-time employees or something like that. Guess what? That changes the outcome. You see, we are not educating our customers properly to be able to think about paying a higher price.
Yeah. So we used to have this in banking all the time when I was a banker. I mean, everybody, the moment that I walked in to talk to a customer, they would want to know basically what is the interest rate I was going to charge? What's the closing fee? And you would need to help them understand why, if you were going to pitch a higher interest rate, if you were going to charge a closing fee, why it was worth it to do that. I call this my Paul Harvey method of selling. Now, for anybody who's not old enough to remember Paul Harvey, he used to have a radio show out there where he would sort of tease us along through the hour. And at the end of the hour, he would tell us the rest of the story. And as a salesperson, you have to tell the rest of the story, whether people ask you or not. I'll give you a quick example. So because I'm a former banker, I have clients all the time ask me financial services questions and just to get my thoughts and opinion. And one afternoon, I walked into work with a client, CEO of a company who was getting ready to buy his building. It was owner occupied real estate, some of the best loans you can make out there. Well, he had two deals on the table. One was a lot less expensive than the other. I'll save you the details. He asked me to look at both deals. And when I looked at both deals, I looked at it and I said I would take the higher one. At which point he looks at me and thinks, why have I ever hired this woman to be my coach? She's an idiot. But I went on to explain, I said, I want you to understand that you need 15 years to pay this loan off, not 5. In 5 years, in the last 5 years, this other bank that is offering you the less expensive price, they've changed hands 6 times. Your loan officer is in his 20s. What do you think the chances are he's still going to be in that position? And you don't know anybody in that company other than him. If you need help, if you need support, if you need anything, you can't get it. You're paying a higher price at this other financial institution. They've been in business for 100 years. That loan officer, you not only know him, but you can get the CEO on the phone if you need to. And why would you ever buy a building that they're not requiring you to do an appraisal? In other words, I sold the rest of the story. And whether your customers ask you or not, you have to help them understand what they're paying for.
See, this comes back to a couple things. You cannot put price on the table until you truly understand what is the problem that the customer is dealing with. Now, in this economic period that we are in right now, customers are much more willing to solve a problem than they are to create a gain. So chances are it's a problem. And if you don't understand what is that problem, and what you just described, Meredith, great story, because situation, what were you selling? You were also selling security.
Yeah.
Security that the customer could count on this. And this is so key. So many times what happens is when customers discount, what they're doing is they're saying this is that initial price. This is that opening price. But again, what is the lifetime value? And we have to be prepared to reposition. I was just with a CRO. I've been sitting in a meeting all morning with a CRO. And one of the phrases that I used is we have to de-educate the marketplace. Now think about what de-educate the marketplace means. Because the marketplace has been conditioned to receive pricing in this manner. It's been conditioned to buy in this manner. We have to de-educate the market first before we can educate the market. And that is absolutely so critical, which means we have to change the narrative. Everything about the process has to be changed. But don't think for a moment, Robert, that you can't get higher price. All the things we've been talking about, it's price is a misnomer. And if you have a customer that is reverting to price right out of the chute, you have not done a good job of really demonstrating value to them, because that's all they have to go on is price.
I agree. And, not only that, they only have to go on price. They won't choose you because they don't understand what they're paying more for. I mean, think about yourself and your own buying habits. Every single one of you pays more for things that you buy, but you believe that that has value. Now, I just told you that I'm in Ireland. None of my luggage came. None of it. I don't have any luggage with me at all. And I'm on like day 5. I'm sitting here in a dress that I probably paid 13 euros for, really cheap. But the reason I was willing to pay cheap for is I'm not even going to take this home. I'm going to leave it in a hotel room somewhere. Now, at the same time, if I buy clothes at home, I want clothes that last, clothes that are going to look good, clothes that I can travel in. So you need to understand, first of all, are you in front of somebody who values what you have to offer? I used to tell the story about my mother all the time. My mother would go in Bloomingdale's to buy pillowcases, white pillowcases. I'm at Walmart or Target buying white pillowcases, but she liked to be waited on. She liked people to show her different shades of white, and they work together and they decide the thread count, what she should buy. I think that is ridiculous. I would never do that. My mother is your target market if you're charging more. I am not your target market when it comes to selling sheets. So you have got to understand your target market. Really, really critical, because you'll never sell price if they don't value what you're selling.
Now, there's something else you said that was very interesting about your mom looking for pillowcases. To her, was also the experience.
Yes.
See, the sales process plays into the experience, and we have to stop and ask ourselves, are we having the right conversations with the right customers? In other words, okay, we're meeting with the customers, great. But what does our process look like? I just saw a market research study done for a company, and it was absolutely scary because the customer said they liked the product, they liked the service, but they couldn't stand the sales process. They couldn't like
Wow.
they didn't like sales. Now think about that. I wonder how much money was being left on the table. See, because again, in the absence of a sales process, what do you have? Nothing. So I'm going to say, Robert, I'm going to say for all of us, are we bringing value to the sales process? If we're not, we are just a transaction, and a transaction will always be done at price. Okay, so you go into Walmart and you just buy cheap pillowcases because again, you're just looking for the end product. See, because the outcome you're looking for, you just need a cover for the pillow. Your mom, on the other hand, was looking for the complete experience. Because do you think she took that experience home with her? I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, she likes the fact she is willing to pay more for those things. Now, the flip of it is really understanding, will your customer pay for that? What I will pay for is speed and convenience all day long. I want to get there faster. I want to be comfortable while I'm getting where I'm getting. I will pay to skip lines. I will pay for all those things. So I would say too, you have really, if you're getting really beaten up on price, you really need to back up and go, are we focused on the right people to begin with? Because if you are not focused on people that matters to them, you're never going to win.
Ding, ding, ding. You win the prize. You're right.
Mhm.
Because you got to understand your ideal customer profile. We've talked about this a lot
A
on
lot.
the show, but this is where I get so concerned that so many times salespeople are quick to just chase the shiny object. Somebody returns a phone call, somebody checks out the website. Suddenly it's like we think they are the next great customer. And I see this in a lot of startup companies. I get to work a lot in the tech SaaS space, and I see this. And salespeople are very quick to run anywhere and everywhere. And yet, you know what's funny? I see this in every other industry. I see this with financial planners. The most successful sales planners stay very niched, very tight. They know who their perfect client is. And yet, even they can get wonky if somebody says, hey, you should go talk to this person because they're willing to have a nice dinner, or they're willing to do something that, okay, great, I'll have a conversation with them. Stay in your lane. And what does that mean? It means understanding the outcome that the customer is looking for. You know what's interesting? And I'd be curious this, because I bet it comes out with you. How many times have you been talking to a potential client, somebody you're going to do work with, and they agree to work with you, and they haven't even asked what your fee is?
Yeah. Yep.
What
So,
does that tell you?
Yep, exactly. That they are really interested in what I'm selling and what I'm buying.
Yeah. So stop and think about that for a moment. If we are dealing with customers who have to know the price right up front, we're dealing with the wrong customers, and we've done a lousy job of putting our value proposition in front of the customer. Because what's happening is we're leading with our product versus our outcome. And that is fatal. I know I love it when I'm sitting here talking to a potential client who's going to do work with me and they agree and we haven't even discussed price. Now, what does that mean? That means there's a level of trust cutting both ways because they can trust me that I'm going to treat them fairly, and I can trust them that they're going to treat me fairly. That is a perfect relationship. Now, I don't think your mom ever walked into that department store and bought pillowcases that way, but I have a feeling she probably would. Whatever the right price was, she would pay, right?
Absolutely. I mean, she just really didn't think about it. And it's funny. Like, I'm that way with restaurants and things. Like, and my husband's really funny too. Like, he won't go to a restaurant where they don't wait on you. Like, he's not standing in line at the counter. So even if all we were buying was a hamburger, he's not going to stand at the line and order a hamburger. He wants to go somewhere. He wants to sit down and he wants somebody to wait on him. So again, I cannot emphasize enough that once you understand your customer, everybody in life is willing to pay for things. I remember years ago when I worked in healthcare and people would come in and they would tell me they didn't have their copay and they didn't think they should have to pay their copay, but they would have televisions as big as a wall in their house. And I'm thinking, you can pay for the television in the wall in your house, but you're not willing to pay for healthcare. It's all a value system. It's what matters to you. And you have to pick people that matter. And then you have to sell it, whether they ask you or not. Because if your competitors are driving down the price, your competitors are controlling the conversation. And you need to take the control of the conversation back.
Now that brings up another issue. Value is not what we believe. We, the salesperson, believes it is. Value is what the customer believes. Now you're in Dublin, Ireland right now. You've been having an absolutely outstanding time, and I'm sure there are things that you about. Well, like you said, you don't have luggage, so you're having to buy clothes, and so price is not exactly the same issue as it might be in other things, right? And I'm sure you're playing some golf, right? You're playing some golf.
Yeah, absolutely. Every day.
Every day. And I would imagine that you're playing some pretty nice golf courses, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you concerned about the price or are you
Not at
more
all.
concerned about the experience? It's
Not
the
at all.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's the funny thing too. Like I told you that so when we landed in Dublin, I went and bought a few clothes there because I was in Dublin. I could get some things inexpensively. I really thought my luggage would be here in like a day. Everywhere else I've been in very small little quaint villages and the pricing is unbelievable of what I'm buying. It's fine. But I went to this little store that was going to close at like 6 o'clock and I walked in at 10 till 6. And the women were actually pretty rude. I was ready to buy my girlfriend and I were ready to buy about half the place. And they pretty much shooed us out of there. We bought one thing and left. The very next day we went down and we bought a week's worth of clothes. But did we go back to that store? No, not at all. Because the experience was bad. Price was nowhere. I'm in a town. This is the price of the clothing. That's all I can do. And I'm ready to buy a week's worth of clothing. And but it was a bad experience. So if you are going to charge more, realize the expectation of the customer is higher.
See, now you just raised a great point there because those sales clerks, those ladies in that store, they didn't understand they didn't understand your value proposition. They were looking at you 10 minutes before closing as being an obstacle to them
Right.
getting out of there on time, to them potentially getting out of there early. But if they had understood what you were looking for, your outcome, see, the basic lesson, they failed to listen to the customer. Now, I'm not going to fault them. It's okay. But I'm just saying this for all of us. Do we take enough time to really listen to the customer before we throw up and put our price out on the table? That is, I mean, just because the customer asks what your price is does not mean you need to give them the price. In fact, you do yourself and them a disservice if 2 minutes into the meeting they say, "Oh, by the way, what's your price?" and you throw the price out. No.
Yeah.
I have a funny response. I know when people sometimes ask me, "Well, I'm typically less than $1 million," and that gets kind of a chuckle and a laugh, but it defuses it because again, I'm not in a position to put price. Never put the price out on the table just because the customer asked for it until you understand what are the needs that they're looking for.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I think that it is, I think it is so important to do when you are ready to present the price. I can't tell you how many times people will reach out to me about a keynote and they want to know my fee. And I'm never going to give my fee until I know what exactly are they looking for and what problem am I solving.
You know, stop and think about that for a moment. What we both get paid for a keynote, people would look at and say, you get paid that much money for that few minutes. How in the world can you justify that price? But it's not the minutes on the stage. It's the outcome that
Right.
the audience is going to leave with. We could never sell our keynotes for the price that we do unless we were focused on what is that outcome that people are going to walk out the door with. And again, salespeople, can't stress this enough. Focus on the outcome. Hey,
Yeah.
time is moving along, and I know it's moving late there for you in Dublin, and same here with me in Philly here. Let's move on. Let's talk about the book, because we got a great book. It's The Psychology of Price by Lee Caldwell. Now, Lee is out of the UK, so why don't you, when you leave Dublin, swing through the UK and have a
I'd love
conversation
to
with
do
Lee.
that.
But it's about the psychology, because it's not just the price point, it's how we present the price point. I
Mhm.
got to tell one very quick story. I have had a procurement officer tell me one time, he says that I know that if the salesperson sitting across from me on a Zoom call can't present their price to me with a solid voice,
Yeah.
great body language, I know that there's a discount to be had, because so many times what happens is salespeople can't even present the price with confidence, because it's
Yeah.
not asking for a price, it's telling them this is what the price is. Anyway,
Yeah. I think Mark, I don't want to let that go because I think that is so key is that, to our audience today, you have to believe in your price. You have to have the confidence for it. And, when you have the confidence for it, you'd be surprised how often the customer will come back to you. I don't know what industry you're in. You said it's just highly competitive, but a lot of times people just think they're supposed to push back on you. And so they do to see if you'll cut. I had it happen for a keynote I did earlier this month, and they pushed back, and I just said, I can't go below that. That's it. And they said, okay. I mean, I think they were just thinking they were supposed to do that.
I think babies come out of the womb saying, "Do I get a price cut?"
Yeah.
I mean, because again, we have society's been trained to ask for a discount, but see, you push back, said, "No, I can't," and you said that confidently. And when you say it confidently, it is amazing at what will happen.
Yeah.
This is where so many salespeople fall down, because they ask the customer if this price is okay. You don't ask the customer if the price is okay. You tell them,
Right.
and you don't ask them to buy. They're investing. I don't care what it is, B2B, B2C, B2G. Customers are investing because
Right.
they're looking for. You said you paid like 12 euros for that dress.
Yeah.
You were investing 12 euros. You weren't willing to invest 50 euros in that dress. You're only willing to invest 12. And some housekeeper is going to walk away with a pretty good dress when you leave that in the hotel room when you leave Dublin.
That's right.
Anyway,
Exactly. I'm going to leave
anyway.
this and this sweater, but Mark, I know we are burning,
Yes, you
time.
burn
I
time.
want to mention
Let's.
the I want to
Yeah.
mention the mastermind one more time. Mark and I, you're going to get access to the Sales Logic system, so much content, a really rich community, and focus and accountability on reaching your sales goal. So check out saleslogicpodcast.com/mastermind.
Great. And the lightning round. Are you ready? Top
Mhm.
10 ways how to sell without cutting your price. Go.
Number one, pick the right target market. Make sure you're choosing a client who values price.
2, never communicate your price until you understand what the outcome is the customer is looking for.
Yeah, and focus on really listening and trying to determine what that outcome is and what the value is to them. It's about urgent need. It may not even be the biggest value out there.
Tie your time to price. Picking up on what you just said, Meredith. When you tie it to price, the urgency of buying that right now.
Yeah. Understand and be ready to communicate everything that your price includes. Don't be caught off guard by putting a price out there. Be confident and ready to explain everything that goes with the price.
When you present your price, present it with a couple of options. Present a higher priced option and let the customer choke all over it. Then you present the option that they really should go with. And you know what? Because of the power of contrasted price, they'll take the price that you really wanted them to go with to begin with.
Yeah. Itemize your proposal. Really put down in writing. Don't just put your price down there. Put everything that goes with that price. You may have articulated it, but still put it down in writing so that they can see when they're looking at my proposal versus Mark's proposal. My proposal is a less expensive, but Mark's includes all these other things. Now it just doesn't look like that.
When you present your price, present it as an investment, not asking them if that's too much or whatever. You present by saying invest and you shut up. Once you share one more, I'll share one more. We'll close it out.
Tell the rest of the story. Do your Paul Harvey. Sell it whether they ask for it or not. Make sure that you are including every single way that your price can help them achieve their outcome.
Just prior to you saying what the price is, make sure you recap to them what the outcomes are, what the problems are, what the challenges, and how your solution addresses that. Then you present your price. And with that, we want to say, hey, thank you for listening to Sales Logic. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, hey, consider telling a friend about our show because it's how we grow when you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meredith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
The sale becomes logical.
All right. We'll see you right back here next week, 8 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning for another episode of Sales Logic. Remember, check out the Sales Logic Mastermind. And if you have a question, please share it with Mark and I. Just go to saleslogicpodcast.com, put it in there, and we'll feature you right here on the show. As always, we love our audience. We're grateful for all of you who spend every Saturday morning with us. We'll see you next week.
From Dublin and Philly, great selling.